Everyone, now that we have gone over the Treaty of Versailles and how wonderfully nice it was to Germany, we're going to go over the other treaties that came out of the Paris Peace Conference, because Germany wasn't the only country that fought for the Central Powers in World War I. You also had Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, the Ottoman Empire, and there was somebody else. I can't think of who it was. Why am I having a brain melt? No, that's it. That's it. I was thinking Austria-Hungary, it's two different ones. Anyways, so, sorry, we're going to be going over the treaties that established, or that they had to sign after the end of World War I. Because we were going to talk about World War I, you always think of the Treaty of Versailles, but you don't think about these other treaties. But then again, Germany had to take the blame for the war, so there's that. So these, what happens, what you see with these treaties is basically one of the 14 points that Wilson proposed kind of coming to being. Wilson, if you remember from the 14 points, one of the things he wanted was self-determination for people. So like ethnic groups. He wanted self-determination, not to be controlled by an empire. So as the Habsburg Empire, which is Austria-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and the Russian Empire all collapsed, you started having these nation states already start forming. So the various treaties we're going to be talking about today are really what the Paris Peace Conference had to come up with in order to make sense of all the chaos that was the end of World War I and the disintegration of these empires and how to formalize them as new countries. So these new countries that formed are known as successor states. And there's a few of them that come about. First of all, Austria and Hungary are successor states because, you know, they had the big empire and it was named Austria-Hungarian Empire, but now they're independent countries. You also have Yugoslavia. There you go. We get to talk about Yugoslavia today, Dane. Czechoslovakia, my personal favorite word. And Romania, and you get Poland also, that come about in large part due to the end of World War I. So first up, we're going to talk about the treaty that Austria had to sign, and that is the Treaty of San Germain. It looks like Saint Germain almost, even though there's an I in there, but it's San Germain. If you're a soccer fan, PSG, Paris Saint Germain, there you go. Same thing. Okay, so this is, woo, me and my boards. All right, so this is with Austria. Austria signs the Treaty of San Germain. Basically, it loses a whole bunch of territory. That's what the treaty sets up. And Austria loses a lot of territory. Namely, they lose Bohemia and Moravia to Czechoslovakia. Dalmatia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina go to Yugoslavia. Bukovina goes to Romania. Galicia goes to Poland. And Italy gets some land, even though Italy left in a huff at the Paris Peace Conference because they wanted a whole lot more than they were promised in the Treaty of London. They do get something from Austria, and that is Trentino, Istria, Trieste, and the part of South Tyrol go to Italy. So Austria loses a chunk of land. If you actually look on a map today, Austria is not that big, and that's the leftover of what they get from World War I. Once again, not a very big country. So fun little bit of information for you. But this actually becomes a problem later on because a whole lot of that territory was very lucrative, at least economically, for Austria. So they're, once again, also not going to be very happy in the long run with their peace settlement. Now we're going to move on to the next treaty. And I hope you're jotting these down because you know all these treaties. We have the Treaty of, I can't pronounce it. Neuilly? I don't know. Neuilly. Let's call it Neuilly. That's probably wrong, and I apologize. The N Treaty. This is with Bulgaria. Bulgaria in this loses a substantial amount of land. It wasn't that big of a country to begin with, but they lose a substantial amount of land. They lose land to Greece, Yugoslavia, and Romania. So everybody that surrounds them. Additionally, they also get their army restricted. They can only have 20,000 soldiers in their army. You thought that 100,000 that Germany was allowed to have was a little rough. And again, Germany is significantly bigger than Bulgaria. So there's that. They were also required to pay reparations like Germany was. They had to pay $400 million. So quite a bit of money. Not as bad as Germany, but, you know, a lot of money. Next one is the Treaty of Sèvres, something like that. The S Treaty. This one's with Turkey, which was formerly the Ottoman Empire, but it's mostly Turkey. So We're just going to call it Turkey. The Ottoman Empire, or Turkey, ends up losing land to Greece and Italy. Lost a decent amount of land. Also, the Ottoman Empire was quite big. So parts of it end up not getting independence, or going to another major country, but end up being mandates to France and Britain. So in other words, Britain and France are going to be running these territories. So France gets Syria, Britain got Palestine, Iran, and the Transjordan. So all that little Middle Eastern area, Britain and France are going to be running it for a while, because that's not going to be a bad idea in the long run. Yeah, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. We don't know what would have happened if they hadn't run it. Also, the Dardanelles, which is a very important strategic location on for Turkey, was now going to be opened up to all shipping. So everybody gets to ship in and out of there, and it's no longer going to be controlled by Turkey. The Turks were not actually that happy with this, as you can imagine. There was the Turkish national movement, which was actually led by Mustafa Kemal. Yes, Mustafa. Not Mufasa, Mustafa. Mustafa Kemal. He organized this Turkish national movement, opposed to the treaty, wanting to get rid of it, and he was mostly successful, and also kicked foreign soldiers out of Turkey. And as a result, the Republic of Turkey is formed in 1923. They get independence, and Mustafa Kemal is their very first president. So that was one of the other effects of this. Next up is our last treaty for this one, the Treaty of Trianon. The Tea Treaty. This one's with Hungary. So Hungary loses land they lose specifically Slovakia and Ruthenia to Czechoslovakia. Of course Slovakia has to go to Czechoslovakia, because then what else would you call it? The Czech, if it was just Czech, would be the Czech Republic? If any of you got that, congratulations. I'm sorry. Corny jokes and bad jokes. I apologize. Transylvania goes to Romania, so Dracula is no longer Hungarian, he's Romanian. And Croatia and Slovenia go to Yugoslavia. And of course, today, those two are independent countries. Just like Slovakia is today, actually. These two are independent countries. Yugoslavia falls apart in the 1990s. So yeah. But those two areas, which were once part of Hungary, go to Yugoslavia. And more so with the issue with Hungary, and coming along with Wilson's idea of self-determination and national borders being redrawn and people getting their own countries, his idea of what constitutes your nationality was a little skewed. He wasn't looking at culture or religion or anything like that. He was looking at common language. So he was like, let's draw the borders around common language, which was a problem. And it proves to be a very big problem throughout the 20th century, like Yugoslavia, which we just talked about. Yugoslavia was a whole mismatch of a lot of different cultures, and you had different religions. You had Orthodox Christians, Catholics, and Muslims living in Yugoslavia, and some of them were not very happy with the other ones being right there next to them. You can ask Bosnia and Serbia about that one. But also you had other people living in these other new countries that really considered themselves Hungarian, or in some cases they considered themselves Austrian, but now they're no longer Hungarian or Austrian. They're now a Czech or Yugoslavian or Romanian or what have you. But so that was one thing that became a pretty big issue when it comes to these treaties of, yeah, we're going to solve all these issues and try to give people self-determination and give them their own home countries. But it ends up being a hot mess whenever you don't consider, you just draw lines based on, everybody here speaks the same language, so let's make them a country whenever they might speak a different language than other people in their country, but they have more culturally and similarities with people in the country they were just taken from. It's kind of like the problem you saw with Germany, whenever you had Germans then wake up the next day and they're no longer in Germany, and now they're all of a sudden in Poland or in France when they weren't Polish or French. So those are the other treaties from the Paris Peace Conference. If you have any questions, please send me a message on Schoology and I'll be happy to help you out.